Hi everyone. Today I'm going to continue on and in fact finish a small series of discussions of some boutique label releases in January 2023. I still have one to come January 31st, this coming Tuesday, when I'm filming this video, and that is The Lady from Shanghai from Kino Lorber. But I think I'm going to put that off into the series of February boutique releases that I purchased because I want to get started on my 1973 series. Yes, indeed, I've gone crazy again. I'm going to try to do at least 50 films from 50 years ago, 1973. But let's get back to another recent release, and this is from Cohen Media, released through Kino Lorber. This is The Gang of Four, and this is a 1988 film directed by Jacques Rivette. And Rivette is one of the original French New Wave directors who probably got the most limited releases in the US, and at least in movie theaters. I think his next film, La Belle Masseuse, The Beautiful Troublemaker, with Emmanuel Béart and Michel Piccoli, I believe that played in theaters, though I didn't catch it until it came out on physical release. And Rivette is probably one of the least commercial of the French New Wave. Because he's very experimental in his narrative. You could call him avant-garde. He can make some very, very long movies. He made a 9-hour movie once. Gang of Four is at 2 hours and 40 minutes is actually one of his shorter movies. And those three things generally don't appeal to me. But for some reason, Rivette's films, all the Rivette films I have seen, I did try out one, which I didn't think I would last for 9 hours. I think there is actually a condensed version of that. But all the other films that I've seen by Rivette, I think 5 more, I found them captivating, almost hypnotic. Perhaps one of the reasons for that is Rivette is very theatrical. And especially in The Gang of Four, because The Gang of Four is half of it is set in a empty theater auditorium where we see a class of students, acting students, performing scenes from a play by Marivaux, and with a very demanding teacher circling around the stage, and we see maybe 15 students scattered about in the seats. Marivaux was a comic writer. I've only seen one play by Marivaux, and it was a comedy. But the students who seemed to 2 by 2 perform scenes from the play, they're playing it rather tragically, and the auditorium is very the seats are blood red, the walls are blood red, the corridors leading up to the auditorium is blood red. And there are parts in the film where real life seems to blend into this theatricality. So like in the opening scene, we follow one of the students from a cafe. She's going into this building. We're not sure where she's going, but she opens the door, and as she comes in, puts her stuff down and walks right up to the stage and starts performing with another actress. We don't know whether this is just a workshop or whether they're actually rehearsing a play for production. And the teacher is hypercritical. She's never satisfied. It doesn't seem like constructive criticism, but she's very prestigious. This is a prestigious acting class. Because of the teacher's reputation as a great stage actress and now as a great acting teacher. And it's all women. And 4 of these women, the Gang of Four, live together in a typical Rivette type house out in the suburbs, overgrown, the garden and the trees, nothing seems to be tended. Leaves everywhere. The house next door is abandoned and decaying. But these four four of the women students lived together in this house, and there was actually a fifth. And this fifth student in the beginning of the film is leaving. She's not leaving the class, but she leaves the house under rather mysterious circumstances. They don't really know why she's leaving and what she's going to. She's mysterious about it. And so the film becomes like two sets. There's the house, and then there's the theater auditorium. And there's pillow shots, like Ozu's pillow shots and Ozu that he used in his films. This is all trains. We see the train going back and forth from the city to the suburb. We see reflections oftentimes there at night. The students, the gang of four, have to rely on parents to, this is evidently an expensive course. One of the women is a fairly successful photographer, but she's giving up photography to do this theater work, or she hasn't given it up because she does still do it in order to pay for this class. So we have the fifth one of the gang of four who is left. She's become involved in some sort of nefarious illegal activities through this boyfriend. Could be arms sales, drug sales, and we learn about this because there is one man in this film, and he appears under very different names. He seems to be trying to seduce each one of the gang of four. In order to find something. He's searching for something. And it all involves this Cecile is her name, Cecile, who is the fifth one in the gang of four, and her activities with her boyfriend. He could be a cop, he might not be a cop. This is typical oblique Jacques Rivette storytelling. But he has certainly invaded the peace of mind of the four women who live in this old house in the suburbs. So, and the mystery is you have to sort of listen closely to get to the mystery of what's going on, because we actually do learn by the end of the film. We do learn, at least we get a pretty sort of definite view of what the film actually means. Now, I gotta admit, I picked up more on that when I watched it a second time. So we have Boulanger playing the teacher. She's the only, well, she's not the only big star, but the only big star in the film that had a film reputation coming in. The four actors are very good in the film. One I recognized, but when I looked over her filmography, because she did have an extensive career, I couldn't place her in anything. And then there's a Portuguese actress who was also a pretty big star in both Portugal and in France. But if you look real closely, one of the female students sitting scattered around from place to place, because we go back and forth, we see many scenes of rehearsal or study. And she looked very familiar, but we don't get a close-up. But she is indeed Irene Jacob, I think is how you say her name. And this was only her second appearance in a film. And she does get to go up on stage and do a little rehearsal herself, but it's more or less in the background. Of course, 2 years after this, she would play Veronique in the double life of Veronique for Kieslowski, and then in the last of the Kieslowski's Three Colors trilogy, she was the star of Red. But you have to look sharp to catch her, because I got to admit, I didn't catch her the first time through. So I found this very riveting. Rivette, I'm finding more and more appealing. He's a subject for further research because of his limited distribution in the U.S. And his relationship to the New Wave, because he was part of the original Gang of Four with Jean-Luc Godard and Francois Truffaut, Claude Chabrol. His first film, Paris Belongs to Us, was actually the first New Wave film made, but post-production, it actually came out after Breathless, 400 Blows, and what was La Cousins, was that? No, it wasn't La Cousins, it was the other film. But Chabrol had already, I think both The Cousins and Chabrol's first film had been released before Paris Belongs to Us came out. And like I say, Rivette is very idiosyncratic. I find him fascinating, but you know, he is a film festival kind of director. And then there is a fifth part of the Gang of Four with Eric Rohmer, and they had an interesting relationship. They were all friends at one time. Eric Rohmer was the editor of Cahiers du Cinema. Jacques Rivette did not like the direction the magazine was going. It was sort of a coup by Rivette, supported by Francois Truffaut, and Rivette, and so Rohmer was kicked out, and Rivette was made the editor of Cahiers du Cinema. This was a far more polemical time in film criticism and film going than we have today. Fascinating story for me. Antoine de Beck, a French author, and he was also later editor of Cahiers du Cinema, has written 6 books on the New Wave. One covering the New Wave. One a biography of Truffaut and a biography of Rohmer, both of which have been translated into English. But I'd love to get his biographies of Jean-Luc Godard, of Jacques Rivette, and of Claude Chabrol, which are all out in French but have not been translated. Truffaut probably had the biggest individual movie commercial successes. Died far too young with 400 Blows and Jules and Jim and Day for Night. Chabrol had a much longer career, didn't have the big individual movie success, but a very commercial film, intended to be a commercial filmmaker. Godard didn't care about any of that commercialism. And so after the 1960s, when his films, you know, were far more popular than his subsequent films, he became very deliberately audience unfriendly, at least audiences that didn't like avant-garde movies. But Rivette, he's different. He sort of went his own way, and it's hard even to describe what exactly Rivette is doing in his movies. And they really demand his movies, even though they're kind of simple on the surface. There's all kinds of stuff going on underneath the surface, and that's probably part of the reason I like his movies. And plus, I love the theatricality of them. So on Celine and Julie Go Boating, probably my favorite Rivette movie so far, there's a great commentary here by Adrian Martin, and this is a 3-hour movie, and for a 3-hour commentary, Adrian Martin is absolutely essential to understanding this film and understanding Rivette's career, at least up to that point. Now, this Gang of Four has a commentary by Richard Pena. I was looking forward to this because he was a longtime head of the New York Film Festival, a professor of film at Columbia University. But this was a real disappointment. I mean, it appears as if he did absolutely no preparation. We listen and watch several minutes of the film, and then he pipes in for maybe a minute or two, basically just describing what we're seeing on the screen and what we've been seeing, and maybe a little bit of interpretation. He's certainly not. He certainly must know a whole lot about Jacques Rivette movies, but he's not letting us in on it if he is. And it goes on for the 2 hours and 40 minutes. You're basically watching 3/4 of the movie, at least you're watching the movie. So, and what's even more disappointing is that Cohen Media is releasing 2 more Jacques Rivette films in the next few weeks that I have never seen before. And I was looking forward to seeing them with some, because it's the only supplement that they're putting on the film. Oftentimes, Cohen Media doesn't put anything on their releases, but I'm still probably going to get them anyways because Rivette is very he's a very appealing filmmaker to me, and he's somebody that I don't know real well, whereas the other new wave directors I know pretty well. So that's the Gang of Four. I really highly recommend the movie, even though I was disappointed with the commentary. But you have to be an adventurous moviegoer. I think it certainly is the case. But even if you're not, if you don't understand the film, I don't even know that you need to understand it in the way that we generally say that, because these four actresses are really good, and Boulanger also very good. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who listened to me. I do appreciate it. Comments are always welcome. Take care.